Hello class, this is chapter 9b assignment question number 1. So in this question we are going to construct confidence interval for the population proportion. And let's get some help from the StatCrunch. Okay. So let's go to stat proportion stats. So if we are dealing with proportion, so we are going to use this proportion stats one sample with summary. Okay. So the number of successes. So in this question, the success event is an accident involves a teenager. Okay, so how many in our sample? How many accidents involve teenagers? That's 86. Number of observations. That's our sample size. The sample size is 590. Okay, and then let's click this confidence interval, and the confidence level is 95%. So we don't have to change this one. So let's click compute. So we have the lower limit and upper limit. So we are going to put those two limits in there. Then what does the confidence interval mean? So we already discussed a confidence interval has three things. One is the confidence level. So you have to mention the confidence level. So that's 95%. And the second one is the population parameter. So in this case, we are talking about the population proportion. You have to mention that something like true proportion or percentage of accidents involving teenagers. Okay. The third one is to mention the confidence intervals or the two boundaries or the two limits. So you have to mention those two limits. So the confidence interval limits. Okay. You have to mention all those three elements. And part C, what does 95% mean? So 95% confidence means that among all the random samples with the same size means the sample size that we studied in this question. So the sample size is 590. So among all the samples, so 95% of those samples will produce an interval. So will produce this interval that contains the true population parameter. So in this question, we are talking about the proportion. So the population parameter is the population proportion. Okay. And then part D. So the statement is, in one of every 5 auto accidents, a teenager is behind the wheel. So that means they said, so 1 out of 5, so that's going to be 1 over 5, 20%. So they said 20% of the accidents involve teenagers. So let's compare this 20% with the confidence interval. Okay, we have the lower limit and upper limit. Then the 20% is outside of this interval, is somewhere here is larger, greater than the upper bound of the interval. Okay, so that means based on our study, the true proportion is less than this 20%. Okay, so this statement is not correct based on our calculation.